Kupp on bye, Jefferson on bye, Diggs on bye. Oh my gosh, all the top wide receivers out this week. So it is going to be a little bit more difficult to submit starting lineups. But regardless, I'll be happy to go through and make these top 30 rankings for you. And all I ask is you go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down there in the comment section. I'll try to answer as many of those comments as I possibly can. And of course, you know this video is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog Fantasy, you can check out a ton of cool player props. Personally, my favorite right now is going to be the Hopkins, higher than 69 in average receiving. We have been on an odd streak with our player props. And of course, you can find the link in the comment section in the description of the video. When you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And they're available in damn near every single state. I know some people think, oh, I'm in California, I'm in Texas, I'm in Florida. They're not available here. They are available there. You can go find that link in the comment section. That should be it. Let's go through. Let's dive into our first wide receiver. I mean, it is going to be a little bit aggressive to rank Jamar Chase at 1, but every other elite level receiver is going to be out this week on bye. So Jamar Chase against the Atlanta Falcons. I like the matchup. I mean, hilarious to just think that people were actually worried about Jamar Chase. I remember when people in the live stream were saying, oh my gosh, should I trade Mike Evans for Jamar Chase? And we were sitting here going, oh my God, you can actually make a move. Like, yes, go get Chase. Chase is an elite level receiver. I think people kind of realized that this past week. Start him aggressively, trade for him aggressive. What are we talking about? Everybody knows you want Jamar Chase. Going over at 2, we got Davante Adams going up against the Houston Texans. With Davante Adams averaging over 10 targets a game, of course, small chance he's suspended. If he is suspended, I think it's only going to be 1 to 2 games. I will keep y'all updated as the week goes on. Small chance, but by the time you're watching this video, maybe he's already suspended for the week. But third guy, Tyreek Hill going up against Pittsburgh. I mean, this Pittsburgh Steelers defense is pretty damn good, but do I care? No. You got Tua Tagovailoa coming back in. Freaking with Skylar Thompson, Tyreek Hill is out there having over 100 receiving yards in a game. Tyreek and Waddle have just been dominant. So now that we get Tua back in, it doesn't matter the matchup. Tyreek Hill, top 5 receiver. Now, our last guy in this tier, this is going to be very aggressive, but this is a statement ranking. CeeDee Lamb, tier 1, wide receiver 4. Lamb's been averaging 10 targets a game with freaking Cooper Rush in Dallas. Getting Dak Prescott coming back in, this offense is going to be significantly better. And on top of this, they're going up against the Detroit Lions. If you wanted to trade for CeeDee Lamb, which you know we've had him on buy low videos over the past few weeks, if you want to go get Lamb, you better do it now because CeeDee Lamb, probably a top 5 receiver this week. And it's probably going to be damn near impossible for you to go trade for him after this week. But now our next guy, very similar statement ranking here. I think you can make the argument that he should be at the bottom of this tier, but regardless, it doesn't matter. I want to make sure that everybody knows that if you have DeAndre Hopkins on your team, you play DeAndre Hopkins. No Hollywood Brown in an offense that wants to push the pace of play. Defensive back down in New Orleans. This matchup isn't as tough as what it seems to be on paper. Hopkins with no Hollywood Brown is a borderline top 5 receiver. He's been a buy low guy for us every single week over the past month. I know that a ton of people who watch our videos, a ton of members of the flock already have DeAndre Hopkins on their team. We traded for him a couple weeks back, but I just want to make sure you already got him on your roster. Now you need to get him in your starting lineup. Now our next guy, Waddle at 6. With Waddle, my most drafted wide receiver in fantasy. Tough matchup against Pittsburgh, as we've already discussed. Do I care? No. You got Tua back in. Waddle's average over 100 receiving yards a game, and with Tua Tagovailoa under center. Top of this, I mean, the 2 down games that we had, not only did we have an injured Tua Tagovailoa, we had an injured Jalen Waddle dealing with the groin. I think Waddle maybe isn't a top 5 wide receiver rest of season because remember, you are going to get guys like Kupp, Jefferson, and Diggs back in, but he should be a top 10 wide receiver rest of season. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 7. I think St. Brown, you could easily move him to the top end of this tier. I'm just a little bit worried about this matchup going up against the Dallas Cowboys. We know the Dallas Cowboys have a very, very good defense. So be a little bit more conservative. We'll throw him behind Hopkins. We'll throw him behind Waddle. That Hopkins ranking, as I discussed, is probably a little too aggressive, but it's a statement ranking. I want to make sure that everybody watching these videos that has traded for DeAndre Hopkins over the past few weeks has Hopkins in their starting lineup. But now going over to our next tier, we're going to go T. Higgins at 8. Another buy low guy for us the past few weeks. I mean, Higgins, hell, with a bum ankle this past week, the man had 10 targets going up against the Atlanta Falcons. A must-start guy every single week. The talent's there. The offense is going to get better, as we've discussed. Going over to our next guy, Chris Olave. With Olave, I mean, I thought that you were going to get Michael Thomas back by now, but it looks like both Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry are going to miss on Thursday. Now, of course, if these wide receivers end up playing, we will have to move Chris Olave down these rankings. But for the time being, as it looks like both those wide receivers are going to miss, Olave, top 10 guy, good matchup against Arizona. Now our next guy, Deebo Samuel at 10. So the production with Deebo has definitely come down. I like the matchup against Kansas City though, in that I think the 49ers are probably in a spot where they're actually forced to throw the ball. What's interesting is Deebo Samuel's actually seen the rushing production come down considerably, even with the injury to Elijah Mitchell. I thought once Mitchell went down, that rushing production was safe for Deebo Samuel. They've scaled it back dramatically. He hasn't been as good as of late. I still think he's obviously a must-start guy. It's a good matchup. I want to be monitoring that rushing production though, because it almost seems like at this point, Deebo Samuel is kind of a little bit boomer bust. But going over to our next guy, we have Mike Evans at 11. With Evans really down week this past week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, I still think that he is the wide receiver 1 in Tampa, even if he is very close to our guy. Y'all know the guy we were betting on this year because he was coming at a massive discount in Chris Godwin. But even if I have Godwin everywhere and don't really have Mike Evans in too many leagues, I still think he's probably the wide receiver 1. Then dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go Michael Pittman at 12. With Pittman, y'all know I thought that it was kind of laughable for people to just have him locked and loaded as a top 10 wide receiver coming in the year. Well, I thought this Indianapolis Colts offense wasn't going to be as good as advertised coming into the season with Matt Ryan, but let me pull this up just to confirm. I believe Matt Ryan's the second leading quarterback in passing yards. So maybe me coming out here saying y'all are overrating Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's not nearly as good as you're saying, yada, yada. Maybe I'm just a clown because, yeah, we're pulling this up. Matt Ryan currently second in the NFL in passing yards. Now, of course, the efficiency has been garbage, but if the passing volume is consistently there, maybe we were wrong to discount this Indianapolis Colts offense. Looks like Michael Pittman is a locked and loaded wide receiver 1. Now our next guy, Chris Godwin at 13. Going up against Carolina, you know this is my guy. Chris Godwin has increased his receiving yards every single week so far this season. What I will say with Godwin is, well, people can be worried about Tom Brady. Well, from a real life perspective, maybe you're worried about Brady. Maybe you think the Bucs aren't nearly as good as they were. From a fantasy football perspective, doesn't matter. Serious question. When this team's going to continue to go through and jack up the passing volume, does it matter? I don't necessarily think so. They're still out there trying to make it where, hell, Tom Brady is by far and away the leading passer of all time in the NFL, where nobody can ever come close to him. So I think that you should probably be in a spot where you just continue to jam in Godwin, especially when he's getting this consistent target volume. Now our next guy, Mike Williams. Mike Williams going up against the Seattle Seahawks. I think this is a very hard player to rank. Y'all know I'm not a big Mike Williams guy. I don't know if Keenan Allen's going to be coming back in. If Keenan Allen comes back in this week, which hopefully he does, I mean, fingers crossed. I don't have Mike Williams anywhere, so I don't want him to do great. I think we have to lower Mike Williams down these rankings, but it is a very good matchup going up against the Seattle Seahawks. And if you have no Keenan Allen at that point, you would have a very safe target share in what should be a better offense, even if Herbert looked very bad this past week. But now dropping down to our next tier, we're going to be led off with Amari Cooper at 15. Kind of crazy to get these wide receivers here. Obviously, it's just all the players being out on bye, skewing up the overall rankings. But with Amari Cooper, I mean, hell, he's been impressive even in a low volume passing attack. Obviously made a highlight catch, top 10 SportsCenter play this past week for that touchdown. Against Baltimore, maybe Cleveland has an issue going through and trying to run the ball as they did against the New England Patriots. I don't know. I think after top 14 guys this week, you do just have a serious drop-off when we're looking at these rankings. I mean, our next guy going to be Allen Lazard at 16. With Lazard, you need to continue to monitor the injury reports, continue to monitor what we have with both Randall Cobb as well as Christian Watson. If they were to play, I think you could drop down Allen Lazard. But without those two guys in this offense, there's just really nobody here to get targets from Aaron Rodgers. And while, yes, Aaron Rodgers and this entire Green Bay Packers offense doesn't look nearly as good as you thought it was going to be coming into the season, I think we can probably say they're going to get better, right? Maybe I'm being a little bit too optimistic, but I think they probably do get better. Now, our next receiver gonna be the pair of guys in Seattle, and Bo Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Y'all know we've been a little hesitant to hype up the Seattle Seahawks passing offense. I mean, I definitely give me all the Kenneth Walker I can get. I know people hate me for it. I still think that Geno Smith at the end of the day is Geno Smith. He's been great. I'm rooting for him. A great storyline for Geno Smith to do significantly better than Russell Wilson. We are all rooting for it 100%. But at the same time, I don't know. I just have a hard time believing that the passing volume's through the roof. And also, it's not the easiest matchup in the world going up against Los Angeles here. Now, dropping down our next tier, we're going to go Christian Kirk at 19. With Christian Kirk, I want to make a bet on the bounce back of this Jacksonville Jaguars offense. I mean, this past week, they had more rushing yards than passing yards. I mean, the two previous weeks, Trevor Lawrence was turning over the ball pretty much every other drive. So they didn't have sustained drives to the red zone where you had touchdown upside for Kirk. I mean, he had another down week this past week, but he gets there because he had the receiving touchdown. Hopefully we get a better performance overall from Trevor Lawrence. Hopefully this Jacksonville Jaguars offense is a little bit better. We know that he is just the locked in alpha wide receiver one. Now going over to our next guy, Courtland Sutton at 20. Y'all know our lock of the week on Underdog this past week was Courtland Sutton less than 67.5 receiving yards. Would be interested to see the prop they throw out this week for us to take advantage of. But anyway, a very tough matchup going up against the Jets, who just shut down the Green Bay Packers. I know everybody wants to say, Mason, take your L on Courtland Sutton. Take your L. You're an idiot. How could you tell us not to draft Courtland Sutton? Because he had a good week with Jerry Jeudy going down early. I mean, the man's literally the wide receiver 27 so far in the season on a points per game basis. So ranking him at wide receiver 20. I know you're going to call me a Courtland Sutton hater, but we're ranking him higher than his average finish. And keep in mind that average finish is a little bit skewed because you got to play in a game with no Jerry Jeudy, or when Jerry Jeudy is going to be here. I think that does cap Courtland Sutton. Now our next guy, Jacoby Myers, 21. With Myers, I'm going to be a little bit more excited about him this week than I was a week ago. I think maybe we get Mac Jones back in, but it's a very good matchup this week. Going up against the Chicago Bears. I know Chicago just held Carson Wentz to about 99 passing yards, but the New England Patriots are a little bit different than Washington. I think Myers is in a better spot. Going over to our next guy, Jerry Jeudy at 22. As I've discussed, Jerry Jeudy, I think, has a very strong argument to be made to be the wide receiver one here from a fantasy football context. I already know we have everybody going, Mason, you're a clown. You've been saying this for way too long. Take your L. Take your L. Guys, if you remove weeks 2 and 3 where Jerry Jeudy was hurt and you look at these receivers weeks 1, 4, 5, and 6, Jerry Jeudy has been the wide receiver one. I'm going to throw you all a bone. I'll rank Courtland Sutton above him. But these guys are very close. If you can still go sell Courtland Sutton and go get Waddle and go get T. Higgins and go get Olave, please go try to make a deal like that. I don't get why y'all want to hate me so much for ranking Courtland Sutton appropriately. But now going over to our next guy, Brandon Ayuk at 23. With Ayuk, good week this past week, and I like the matchup going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Interesting, though, if George Kittle is getting involved more as a pass catcher, though, and obviously still have Deebo Samuel, I think Ayuk will be a very volatile play. But now going over to our next here, we have Deontay Johnson at 25. With Deontay, I mean, y'all know this is a wide receiver that I wanted to make that bet on coming into this season. This is where I will take my L, where he was the wide receiver 7 on a points per game base last year. He's even dominated with targets so far this season. But this Pittsburgh Steelers offense is very hard to get excited about. We don't know who we are going to have at quarterback. It's not a great matchup going up against Miami either. So even if I really like Deontay Johnson coming in the year, I got to take my L. I think we have to be a little bit lower on him. Actually, you know what though? I mean, we will move Deontay Johnson up into that same tier with guys like Christian Kirk, even if we need to lower him down our rankings in general. But now our next guy, Romeo Doubs, going up against Washington. Like I said, this will be 100% a situation. We need to monitor the Randall Cobb and Christian Watson injury. If both those wide receivers are out, I think you'd be a little bit more excited about Romeo Doubs. I think this will be a bounce back spot for the Packers in general going up against Washington. Let me pull up the spread this week. I would imagine that Las Vegas is heavily betting on the Green Bay Packers against Washington. I mean, actually, no, it's only a 5.5 point spread. Dear God. I figured they'd be betting on that Packers bounce back. Very interesting. There's a larger spread on that Dolphins game. But anyway, with Romeo Doubs, I mean, if you have both Randall Cobb and Christian Watson missing, I think he can safely get some targets here. Next guy, Brandon Cooks. I mean, with this Cooks ranking, I just want to come out here and I want to go back to what we said at the beginning of the week. I have come to the point where these wide receivers, if you are playing in a horrendous offense, I am going to rank you too low intentionally. I know everybody's going to tell us that our ranking with Brandon Cooks is way too low. Maybe I'll agree with you from a median projection. However, I think when these offenses are severely capped, the Washington receivers, the Houston receivers, the Chicago receivers, these teams that are very bad, I would rather be too low on the pass catchers in that offense than too high on them. I'd rather be too low than too high. That's where I stand with Brandon Cooks at this moment. Now our next guy, Bateman, 27. We'll have to monitor Bateman, of course. Sell high guy for us earlier in the year based off a couple long touchdown receptions that we didn't know if they were sustainable or not. Obviously, can't hold the injury against him, though. We will have to monitor the injury reports this week. Now dropping down to our last tier, we're going to have London and Juju Smith-Schuster. The two exact opposites, where if Drake London was playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, like, dear God, Drake London may indeed be a player that's, what, a top 12 receiver? I mean, maybe that's a little bit aggressive, but someone that you can confidently go through and jam in every single week. Someone that you could be extremely excited about. Whereas now, I mean, when you have no passing volume in Atlanta, just like what we said with Brandon Cooks and the Houston Texans, I'm going to lean on the side of being too pessimistic, too low on these receivers in these piss poor passing offenses than the opposite. And as well as Juju Smith-Schuster, that's going to be the opposite end of the spectrum where Juju doesn't look that great, but it may not matter if you're attached to Patrick Mahomes. I think you're always going to be on the radar here. So include Juju, wide receiver 30. I don't know. I just think maybe we're getting burned with our guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts. So I'm overreacting to these bad offenses, but I don't know. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know if you think that we are overreacting here, trying to rank these wide receivers in bad offenses intentionally too low. But of course, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like. If you have any questions, drop them down there in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And if you want to check out any of these player props, my favorite's going to be the higher than DeAndre Hopkins, 69 receiving yards. You can find the link to Underdog Fantasy in the comment section. You can find the link in the description of this video. When you sign up with promo code FLOCK, you can get into some fun drafts with us on the live stream, and they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. But thank you again. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day, and hope we get to see you in the live stream tonight.